So today's video I wanted to dedicate to the topic of pain. Pain is an emotion, so I'm going to be speaking about the purpose of pain. I'm going to be talking about the consequences of too much pain, and I'm also going to be talking about the best way to deal with pain. So we're going to start off with the purpose of pain. Emotions usually require us to do something, right? Emotions are very key to our survival. And one of the main roles of pain, one of the main purposes of pain is to tell us that something is wrong. To tell us that something is wrong. So if you think about when we're in immense amount of pains, we want to get out of it, right? We want to get out of it quickly. We want to solve it quickly. Pain really gets us to move and move quickly. And so one of the purposes of pain is to tell us that something is wrong so that we can do something about that pain. This is great, right? Because we want to try and move away from the pain. And we want to try and bring about the opposite of pain, which is ease, relaxation. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But one of the problems we run into when we see something like the kind of things that we're seeing in the news at the moment, the kind of things that are going on in the world, one of the really terrible things that happens as a result of too much pain that we don't know how to deal with appropriately because it surpasses a lot of our natural abilities to kind of do anything about, is apathy. And apathy is another emotion, and the role of apathy is to actually stop us from acting. So if pain wants us if pain is a driving force that wants us to move away from it, apathy is actually an opposing force which stops us from acting. So you can see that if there's too much pain, if you think about it as an equation, if there's too much pain, the apathy starts to interact from the opposing side and pushes back the pain and creates numbness and other kind of side effects. So what we ideally want to be able to do with pain is not numb it, not get rid of it, but also kind of titrate or mitigate how much pain we feel and how intensely we feel that pain over a long period of time. So what we ideally want to do from a psychological perspective is we want to build up a tolerance to pain and the distress that pain causes, and we want to do it in a way that actually allows us to endure the pain over the long term. Right? We don't want to just fight for the Palestinian cause one day in a burst of rage and a fit of anger, and then the next day not have the energy to do anything about it. What we really ideally want to be doing is showing up every day in the ways that we can on those days and managing the process and pacing the process so that we can continue to live with the pain and allow the pain to move us to do the actions that we need to do to support our Palestinian brothers and sisters and also to support ourselves. So I want to talk a bit about the best ways to deal with pain. I'm not here to tell you how to be an activist and how to kind of show up in spaces and how to best support our Palestinian brothers and sisters. There's already a lot out there on that. If you're Muslim and you're practicing, then you can make dua, you can donate money, you can keep spreading awareness. But what I'm really talking about here is the personal and psychological aspects of dealing with the pain that comes with doing all of these things, right? And what I really want to emphasize here is connection. Well, obviously, a lot of us aren't in Palestine. We're not in Gaza. So what we really need to bear in mind is that it's very easy in the online world, as we're spreading awareness and donating and making du'as from behind screens, it's very easy to get lost up in a trap of isolation. Right? And one of the best antidotes for pain is actually connection. Connection to self, connection to other people, connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so what we want to make sure that we're doing, no matter how we're being an activist, no matter how we're contributing to the cause, is we want to make sure that we actually maintain a connection to these three things, right? Self, other people, and God. Now, one of the really overbearing parts of pain, going back to the first point, is if I feel like I'm doing it all by myself. If I have to carry the weight of what's going on in Palestine on my shoulders as an individual, that is obviously going to lead to a lot of apathy eventually, because there's no way that one human being can carry the pain of the world. Right? So one of the ways that we mitigate the effects of pain on ourselves is we carry that load with other people. So it doesn't mean we don't carry the load. It doesn't mean that we don't do the things we need to do because they're painful, but it means that we carry that pain with other people, and not just in online spaces. I mean in real life. showing up in real life with other people, doing things with other people in real life, whether you're supporting the Palestinian cause in that moment or whether you're just taking a break. It's really, really essential, right? Because then we kind of anchor this idea that we're not alone. It's very, very easy to feel alone in this conflict because of the way that we're receiving it, right? Primarily through online sources. And then another connection is God, right? Now, if you have a good relationship with God, and some people don't, okay, and that's okay, and that's something else to unpack, which I'll address in another video. But if you have a good relationship with God, God is the biggest, probably most helpful resource in this case. Because even us as human beings together, we cannot hold the weight of the world on our own, right? We can hold it more than we can as individuals, but we can't hold it in its entirety. So ideally what we want to titrate pain is a connection to self, a connection to other people, and a connection to God, ideally at the same time. If you think about it, it's almost like a web. I know I have 4 fingers up here, let's say 3. It's like a web, right? It creates a web, and that web becomes really resilient. And that's what we really, really want here. So for example, those of you who pray regularly, make sure that you're praying in congregation. Make sure you're showing up in spaces where other religious people are existing physically, not just digitally, physically, right? You want to make sure that you're engaging in acts of worship that are communal, maybe communal dhikr, communal worship in the mosque, just connecting to people in religious spaces and making sure that some of the activism and some of the things that you're doing happens in those spaces. And if it's not activism that you're doing and you're just trying to connect to yourself, other people, and God, just making sure that you go and you spend time in these spaces where real people exist, right? Our bodies cannot tell the difference between online spaces and spaces that are in real life. So when we see all of these things online and we're alone in our bedroom, it's like we're there and we have no one around us. Versus if we go into these collective spaces and allow ourselves to do what we need to do in and from these spaces. If you have any questions, you can let me know. You can drop them in the comment box below. You can also send me a DM over on Instagram, or you can send me an email. I'll leave all my details in the description box below. And inshallah, together we can kind of manage the pain collectively so that we can continue to fight for our brothers and sisters in Palestine.